How long do you want me to talk?
Yeah, if it is possible, Prof, if from 15 to 20 to let us, our friend, having question and you can answer of their questions. Yeah.
Great.
Good afternoon, everyone. For those who are residing in Southeast Asia, it is already evening. Thank you for joining us tonight here, and Prof. Kaunert over there in UK, still afternoon. It is already just have lunch after lunch. Ladies and gentlemen, let us start our workshop for today. I would like to introduce Prof. Christian Kaunert. He is a professor in University of South Wales, United Kingdom. And then in the same times, he is the editor of the journal. Therefore, tonight we are here to listen and to learn from Prof. Christian Kaunert how to write article, what is the requirement, and we will propose before 28, 29 of this month to have the special issue. So let me now soon, if you are interested to join the special issue. The second one, Prof. Kaunert, is the director of the center in the university. In the same times, he joined the Jean Monnet Center of Excellence in Europe, and then he managed like after another excellent center of excellence in counter of terrorism. And then without further ado, I would like to thanks to Prof. Kaunert, and then I will invite him to speak 15 to 20 minutes. Prof. Kaunert, time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be there with you today. Wonderful evening to all of you in South Asia. I'm hope you had a wonderful day, and for all of you who are in Europe, I'm wishing you a happy lunch, and I hope that this will be a very interesting seminar. So what I want to talk to you a little bit about is how do you publish in international journals? How do you publish an article that is publishable in a top journal? So that is roughly what I'm going to talk about. But let's say, in a sense, why should you publish? Why is that an interesting idea to publish in an international journal? Well, the first thing is you want to add knowledge to your field, right? Second thing, for those of you who are academics, who are doing research on a daily basis, you also want to advance in your career. You also want to see your name in print. It's nothing nicer than, picking up this article, this possibly printed article, also electronic article, and you see your name in print. You've really made it. You've been selected as one of those people who have something original and significant to say, because that's ultimately what being published in an international excellent peer-reviewed journal means. It means that you have something original. It means that you have something significant to say. So this is great in that sense. Therefore, have you got something that is worthwhile publishing? Yeah. Do you have something that, in a sense, adds to existing knowledge? Now, in order to know that, you need to obviously first outline what the existing knowledge in your field is. And in order to know that, you need to first define a little bit what your precise field is. What is your precise field of study? And how do you intend to build on that? How do you intend to improve it? How do you say something original that other people haven't already said? Is it of interest to others? Are other people in your field interested in what you might have to say? Is it something new that they haven't come across? So ultimately, is it worthwhile publishing? Now, once you say, look, actually, I think it is something worthwhile publishing, then you go and decide where to publish. There's a variety of different outlets where you can publish. There's obviously conference proceedings. So when you take part in a conference or in a workshop, there's sometimes conference proceedings. There's book chapters, for instance, book chapters in edited books that are also very, very important and have a rightful place in the publishing hierarchy. But ultimately, there's also a number of journals. There's, in fact, thousands of journals. So how then should you choose in which journal you should publish? How do you choose? Well, firstly, you start with looking at the journal's website. You check the website because usually each journal says exactly this is the sort of stuff that we publish. There's the objectives of the journal, usually clearly mentioned. We publish in this particular area. We do this, we analyze this. So the topic and the journal coverage is clear from the website. Then the second point of consideration, is your journal peer-reviewed and is it indexed? If the answer to that is yes, it is peer-reviewed, yes, it is indexed, then the publication will hold a much higher value to you. You know, it'll be more valuable in your academic career. It'll be more valuable for other people to know about it. They will find out because ultimately the indexing and the kind of citation index, as it were, is a sign that other people will have access to it. They will have access to it. They will find out about what you have to say. So it adds and contributes to existing knowledge. Is it the appropriate readership? And that is something that you should always kind of bear in mind. You should start reading some of the articles in a journal that you're hoping to submit to and see if it engages with what you're doing. If the journal engages with the sort of stuff that you're doing, then it's probably an appropriate readership. If you would never, ever consider reading the journal, then it's perhaps a little bit difficult because then most likely the people that have published might not be very familiar with your work either, and they might not be able to give you the best feedback. Then another consideration is obviously the prestige of the journal. Is it a Q1 journal? What is the journal perceived? Another important aspect is the length of time from submission to publication. Yeah, how long does it take from the moment that you submit your article to the moment that ultimately your article gets published, at least published online? That is an important consideration. And then finally, the journal impact factors. Journal impact factors are measured in terms of how many people are citing your work in that particular journal. And that is multiplied then by all of the articles and divided by the amount of articles that are being published there. So that's the journal impact factor. It's an impact factor that attempts to provide a measure of how frequently papers published in a journal are cited in a scientific literature. If they're rarely cited, the idea is that they don't really have so much of an impact because people don't read them. Calculated here as the average number of times an article published in a journal in the previous 2 years has been cited in all of the scientific literature in the current year. Has anybody cited your work? Has anybody cited a journal? So if there was an average of 1,000 citations in 2007 for 100 articles published in a journal, then the impact factor is 10. It's 1,000 divided over 100 articles. Most journals in our disciplines have an impact factor that is below 2. That's quite a good journal, in fact. Journal with impact factors above tend to be regarded as having a huge impact factor, and those above 10 are stellar. But in our discipline, that is unlikely that they have quite such a high impact factor. Usually in the natural sciences, you will have higher citations than in the social sciences. In terms of journal quality, you have obviously the ambition for high standards in terms of acceptance for manuscripts. So when your article has been accepted in one of the better journals, in one of the top journals, it is in fact a standard of quality. You know, you go back to your universities and say, internationally, the standard of my writing has been recognized as internationally excellent. Yeah? This is the kind of level that we're aiming for. It has well-known editors, it has well-known editorial board members, and it has a working and critical refereeing system. Having this and having also a high frequency of citation by other journals, that is what a high impact factor is. If other journals are also citing the journal, then it has a high impact factor. And of course, the timeliness of publication, a high visibility, being covered by major abstracting and indexing services. Now, what do editors look for in a good manuscript? Very often, when you submit your manuscript, initially editors will screen the manuscript to see whether they're good enough, whether they're really worthy of sending them out for peer review, because we find it usually very difficult to get a lot of peer reviewers. So you have to be a little bit careful not to overwhelm them with the amount of articles that you're sending them. So what do editors look for? Well, firstly, of course, quality. You need good science, something that is well planned, well executed, and is well presented in your writing. It needs, and those are the two most important criteria, it needs originality and it needs significance. It needs to be something that hasn't been said before, and it needs to be important to be said. Those are the originality and significance question. It needs to be consistent also with the scope of the journal. If it's not in scope of the journal, then the journal is likely to reject it, because while it might be an interesting article, it doesn't quite fit. It needs to be demonstrated by a broad interest to readership. So readers of that journal need to be interested in it. Will they cite it? Does it have a well-written story? Does the article have a story that people can understand? Is the author enthusiastic about what they're writing? And those are all important considerations. Now, the key point is every paper needs to have a strong introduction, because the introduction is the first thing that anybody reads. A strong introduction is, in a sense, your first step towards getting a paper accepted. It needs to engage the reader. It needs to set the scene. It needs to explain why the work is important. It needs to state the aim of the study. It has to be clear. It has to be logically organized. All of the sections need to make logical sense, why one thing is coming after the next. And it needs to outline the complete methods. It needs to provide enough information to allow the assessment of the results. The results need to be clear and concise. They should avoid repetition between text, tables, and figures. And it needs to have a relevant discussion. Start strongly. Were the aims achieved? Discuss the significance, discuss the implications of the result. So don't leave the reader to guess whether your article is original and significant, but really state it clearly what the reasons for originality and significance are, so that the reader understands them quickly by reading your paper. Now, a difference here between a PhD and a paper is that in your thesis, in your PhD, in a sense, you throw all sorts of stuff in it. But the paper should really be the essence, the jewels of your writing. It should be revised, it should be refined, it should be really very, very clear. So in terms of the publishing process, basically the way it works is you start obviously with the submission. The submission then is either accepted by the editor for peer review or is rejected straight away. And that is what is called a desk reject. So if the editor says this paper is not good enough or is not in scope with sending it to peer reviewers, then the editor at that point says this is a desk reject. If they say, look, from a cursory reading, it appears to be possibly good enough, so then they send it to peer reviewers, usually at least 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. It depends how many peer reviewers they can get, but usually it's a minimum of 2. Often it's a maximum of 4 or 5. Those peer reviewers then read the article and they provide an assessment. They ask a couple of questions, they provide an assessment. Now, either the peer reviewers say, no, this article is not good enough, and then they reject the article. If they reject the article, then the article goes back to the author and you can revise it and send it somewhere else. Or they ask for revisions. It's very rare that reviewers are going to say, oh, we'll accept the article like that. It's almost never that something way. So then the editor goes back to the author and says, look, this is how it needs to be revised. Then the author comes back and makes the revisions with a clear cover letter to say that this is what I've done. This is what I've done in response to this criticism. This is what I've done in response to that criticism, and so on, with a clear cover letter outlining exactly what has been done to the article and how it's been revised. And then the editor sends it back to the peer reviewers, sometimes just one, maybe two. And if they then accept it, then the article gets accepted. Or there may be a second round where they are asked for a second round of revisions. And then once the second round of revisions is back, they might then accept it after that. Then it might be published, or it might be rejected if the revisions are still not satisfactory. There's obviously lots of opportunities for rejection. The most likely outcome for most articles is a rejection somewhere. That, in a sense, every paper is competing with many others for the attention of editors, readers. The title needs to be interesting, brief, accurate. The abstract needs to be interesting in terms of the paper. Aim to have 4 sections in the abstract of your paper. Why, how, what, and implication. Why this article? How did you write it? How is the argument constructed in the article? What does the article do? And what are the implications of what we find? Include important keywords for searching. That's very important also in terms of finding the right peer reviewers. And make it clear and easy to read. Before you submit, maybe bring it to a colleague in your university. Maybe let that colleague read it, assess it, ask you some questions, and maybe also ask somebody outside of your field to read it. Can they also understand it? Read the instructions to the authors. Write a cover letter to the editor. Clearly explain the scientific advance of your paper. Submit with the consent of all authors and only one journal at the time. Usually journals really dislike it when you're submitting to 2 journals at the same time. So make sure that you're only submitting to one journal. Publish or perish. Obviously, this is important for academic careers. You are likely to be rejected. That's what happens with a lot of articles. But you can improve your odds by writing and constructing a really good article. An article that undergoes the peer review process. After the reviewing process is done, you will have, like I say, the referees. There's usually 2 or 3, sometimes 4. Once you get your reviews back, what makes a good review? A good review provides the editor with the information on which a decision can be based. So they're meant to be insightful, they're meant to be articulate, they're meant to be constructive. They should tell the editor what is interesting about the paper, how are the results significant, what contribution does the paper make, what can be done to improve the paper, and if the paper is not publishable, why is it not publishable? If the reviewer just says, oh, it's not publishable, but doesn't give good reasons for it, an editor might just not follow that either, because it's not that the reviewers necessarily have the last word. Ultimately, the editor decides, but the editor decides on the basis of having looked at the arguments that the reviewers have provided. Now, a number of reviews could then say, oh, well, this has serious flaws, reject. The most likely is, in fact, reject. Reject is something that comes up in a lot of journals as the most likely outcome. But if you don't have a reject, if you have a revise and resubmit, for instance, then you should be very, very happy, because revise and resubmit means you're meant to revise, you read the letters of instructions, you look at the reports, you put them aside, reread the reports, revise the paper, and then you revise all of the paper in response to each comment that is provided by the reviewers. You do that in a clear, well-organized way. You're addressing common themes, informative, full explanations, etc., etc., but always polite. Yeah? A referee might say, abstract is too long, too little about the rationale, etc., etc. You just review it and revise it. A referee might say the presentation is not particularly clear nor concise. Well, you need to deal with that. Editors' decisions are usually either accept, that's very rare, certainly not after the first review. Then a conditional accept, which is minor revisions, just small revisions that you need to make. A revise and resubmit, which is already major revisions, or reject. If it's accept, obviously that's great. If it's revise and resubmit or minor revisions, that's fantastic. That's the most likely positive outcome. If it's reject, you take it and you just improve it and send it to another journal afterwards. Ultimately, the editor will make a final decision based on how well the referee's reports have been dealt with. So make sure that you revise with care, respond fully to each referee comment, be clear, cogent, and complete in your arguments. If you don't follow a referee's recommendation, make the editor's job as easy as possible. So 10 rules. I'll just end up on that note. Read many papers, learn from both the good and the bad ones. Be more objective that you can be about your work. The better the work, it will ultimately become. See feedback as an opportunity for improving, not personal criticism. If you don't write well in the English language, which is possible, try and improve and get support for the English language. Sometimes you might need editing support for the English language to make sure that the article is understandable for a reviewer. Learn to live with criticism, rejection, that's academic environment. Understand what makes good science, what makes good science writing. Start writing the paper the day you have the idea of the questions you want to pursue. And also become a reviewer yourself in your career. Make sure that you give time for those activities, so then you also learn in terms of how to write articles in that sense. Decide early where to try and publish your paper. Quality ultimately is everything. So I'll end on that note. Quality is everything, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Prof. Kaunert, for the explanation. It is clear. It is already clean and clear how to write a paper and submit, and some practical issue, and then the tips from Prof. Kaunert. One more things I would like to share. One of the journal that it might be good for us to see. This journal is edited by Prof. Christian Kaunert, European Politics and Society. And then this is published open access in this journal. So feel free if you are looking for open access. And then if you can see the journal metric right here, it is in Scopus Q1. And then what is the instruction for authors? It is details here. Yeah. And then it might be, if you are interested to join us for the special issue, I'm arranging for special issue and submit to the editor for the proposal. So again and again, feel free to see the website, make it familiar, what is the guidelines about the issue, what is the aim and scope of the journal. In the same times, you need to see the instruction, the reference style, in the same times that the length of the article. That's the first project. The second one, we are planning for edit volume in the books, but hopefully in the near future we can come and discuss about this one. But this time, we are more than happy to discuss with Prof. Christian Kaunert about the tips to write for the European politics and society. I am opening opportunity for us. If you have any kind of questions, yeah, feel free to raise your hand, or you can write down over there in the chat box, so I can read for us to convey to Prof. Christian Kaunert about your questions. Yeah. Anyone want to ask? Yeah. I will read one questions. Thank you for allow me to join this workshop. And then my questions is about the aim and scope, because it is European journal. Is it only about European, or something connect to Asia or Southeast Asia? The second questions, is there any deadline of the submission every issue, or it is running all over the year? So, Prof. Kaunert, there are two questions about the
Right.
topic that it is acceptable for the journal, and the second one, is there any kind of deadline? Time is yours,
Right.
sir.
So that's great. So the first question in terms of the topic, so it should be something that connects to Europe. But one of the things that we were discussing, for instance, to do is to kind of look at the relationship between Europe and South Asia, between Europe and Asia, and those are topics then that would connect to Europe as well, and they would be in scope. So that would be perfectly fine to submit to the journal and so on. But you need to still make some level of connection also somehow to Europe. And then it can also be about South Asia, but there should be some link. I think that's kind of the important thing. But as we were discussing the special issue, I think the idea is to bring the two together, and then there will be a link. Now, in terms of the special issue, I think the special issue, the timeline we'll be discussing with Dr. Ismail. The special issue proposal should be submitted by the end of the month, really. So it would be good if you send your abstract and your bio already to Dr. Ismail beforehand, so that he can put together the proposal and everything else. So ideally, don't wait until the last day that you send it to him. Ideally, already send it earlier. It's just a short abstract, 150 words, and maybe 250 words, and then a short bio, maybe 100 words, 120 words, just about yourself, who you are. And then he can integrate all of that together and put all of the articles together. Now, if you are interested to participate, but not necessarily for the special issue, because maybe you don't have a paper that you can write in a timeline or so on, you can in principle submit for general issues all year round. So you submit whenever you have a paper ready, and you can submit that paper all year round. And that's something that you can do all the time. So you don't have a specific deadline for that. But if you want to take part in a specific special issue, because this could be interesting also in terms of gaining visibility, to bring a coherent theme together. So special issues are something really quite valuable and quite important there. Then I would encourage you to already send your abstract before the end of the month. It doesn't have to be a full paper at this point, only a short abstract and a short bio note, and then we're ready to go in terms of the proposal.
Thank you, Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, so it is opportunity for us to have the special issue. So feel free to send me. I will write my email over there in the chat box, and then send me around 200 to 250 abstract and your short bio from 50 words to 100 words. And then okay, there is a question, one more question, Prof, from Reski. Good afternoon, Prof. At the end of your presentation, you mentioned about 10 rules. Could you briefly explain about 10 rules? Okay, time is yours, Prof. Kaunert.
Yes, great. No, thank you. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste the 10 rules here in the chat. So then you have, I'm sending you the first 5, and then you have them there. And I'm going to send you the next 10 as well, the next 5 as well. So then you have them there as well. Let me just do that. And then you can read them in your own time. So basically, the idea here is that you read as much as you can, read many papers, because the more you read, the more you're going to improve writing. Learn from the good papers, just as you learn from the bad papers. What is good about some papers, what is bad about some papers. Try and learn from both. Obviously, try and always be objective. Try and remove yourself from the analysis and try and be an objective observer. That can be about your work, the better your work will ultimately become. Try and get feedback from your colleagues in terms of getting as much of a criticism as you possibly can, because ultimately that's what reviewers are there for. They're meant to criticize your paper. So when you already ask some colleagues beforehand, then they will already maybe give you some of the criticism, so then you can already improve your paper before you submit. If you don't write well in English, try and get support. Try and get maybe language support from your university. Maybe you get editorial support. Sometimes journals also have services where you can, usually they're paid services, but they can do some English language editing for you before you submit your paper. Obviously, learn to live with criticism. That's something that is part of academic life, especially if you want to submit to Q1 journals. Understand what makes good science and what makes good science writing. Start the paper on the day that you have the idea and what questions you want to pursue, and also be part of the review process. Volunteer to become a reviewer in journals. Decide early where you want to publish a paper, and ultimately quality. Quality is the main thing. Quality is what will drive your academic career ultimately.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Already share with us about the 10 rules, and every one of us can see the 10 rules over there in the chat box. Yeah, and then it might be you can save it, and then afterwards, if there any kind of questions in the near future, we can still invite once more to Prof. Christian to discuss with us, since he is the one of editor of the journal, so it might be he knows about the inside of the journal, and then if you can come with us with the special issue, feel free to send before the deadline, and then we will have after the workshop about it especially. And the second one, if you cannot come up with the special issue, so the topic is about European or something connect with European society, and then you can submit it yearly round. Yeah, first come, first serve. So there is no any kind of the deadline. So everyone is welcome to join. If you have any questions, feel free to write down over there in the chat box, or you can raise your hand, and then for those who need any kind of certificate of attendance, I already write down my email over there. Feel free to send me your email and your full name, and the secretariat will send you the certificate of attendance of your attendance for this workshop. I would like to invite every one of us, if you have any kind of questions or any kind of comment. And thank you everyone joining us. We have here IAI DDI Sidenten Trapang. We have friends from Universitas Muslim Indonesia and couple universities from Indonesia right here. And the second ones, if you have any kind of account in LinkedIn or in Twitter or X, so you can see over there, there is one of the master program under European countries. So you can register to Glasgow University, and then after Glasgow University, you can go two options, either going to Italy, Poland, or going to Germany, or going to Dublin. So it is a 2 years program. And then in Indonesia, we have a scholarship for the master program in Europe, and it is still open until June and July. So you can register and see one of the tips from Prof. Kaunert, that have the familiar of the website, read and reread again. Somehow you can find the clear information over there. If you don't have any kind of questions, we are in the end of our workshop. I'd like to invite once more to Prof. Kaunert to say something as the closing statement. Prof. Kaunert, time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was a great honor to be there with you today. I think the attendance was absolutely fantastic. It was a great pleasure to connect with you, to see your work. I'll very much look forward to have another workshop with Dr. Ismail and to have you back. And I look forward to your great article. So I'm really looking forward to all of our collaboration. In addition, the master's programs, there's two master's programs. In fact, there's the one that Dr. Ismail has already mentioned. There's the IMSIS program, the International Masters of Security, Intelligence, and Strategic Studies that we have at Dublin City University, Glasgow University, University of Prague, Charles University Prague, and Trento University. You're very welcome to apply. At the University of South Wales, we also have a master's program in international security and risk management. So you're very welcome also if you want to spend your time in the United Kingdom to also apply for that master's program. If you want to have more information about that, feel free to send me an email and I'd be very happy to provide you with much more information. So I look forward to our continued collaboration. Thank you so much. And thank you for the great workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Kaunert, for the kind invitation. We already learned a lot about this kind of the journal and how to write, about 10 rules. In the same times, for those who already graduate from undergraduate program, you have opportunity to join master program in Glasgow. And then there are two options. You can go to Italy and Germany, or you can go to Poland and Dublin. So it is 4 semesters in 2 years. Somehow in UK style of master program, it is only 1 year, but this program under the cooperation in university, 4 universities join together for the program, and then it is for 4 semester in 2 years. Thank you very much for joining us, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Again, if you need any kind of certificate of attendance, feel free to email me, and then the secretariat will send you soon. Once more, thank you to Prof. Kaunert for the kind collaboration and your spare time to let us learn about the possibilities to write together in the journal. Have a nice afternoon, everyone, for those who reside in European countries, and then good evening, everyone, for those who are joining us from Southeast Asia. Thank you very much, and
Thank you.
the Zoom will end. Thank you, Prof. Have a nice
Thank
afternoon.
you.
Thank you,
Bye. Bye.
everyone. Bye.
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 Bye.